In this video, I'm testing a 2006 Ford Territory. What on earth is one of those? So Australian hubnutters will be more than familiar with the Ford Territory. It is a car that was designed, engineered and built here in Australia, in fact in Melbourne itself, with the engines built down in Geelong, just down the coast. The platform is actually the BA Ford Falcon. So if you haven't seen my Falcon XR6 Turbo road test yet, I suggest you go and watch that first, because there's going to be references to that might otherwise get lost. In terms of the styling, I think you can already see those Falcon origin coming through in the design of the front end, and especially the windscreen wipers I think are very similar to a BA Falcon. BA Falcon, of course, was rear-wheel drive. You could buy your Ford Territory in rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and this is the all-wheel drive version. But I will say now, naturally being car-derived, it is very much firmly in the SUV soft roader category. You probably don't want to go beating through the bush in one of these. It just isn't equipped. It hasn't got diff locks. There is traction control, but I don't know how clever it is. But it is big. It is definitely on the large side, but not as large as some of the terrifyingly enormous American SUVs. It is a 7-seater. This one is finished in a very fetching colour called Wired. Yeah, I'm extra thrilled to have one that's an actual colour to test drive, because they did come in a whole heap of colours that weren't very interesting at all. Different shades of silver and grey. We should probably start by having a look under the bonnet. So let's do that. It's all looking quite Falcon-y in here, very much like the BA. Unsurprisingly, similar platform indeed. If we come around the front, we've got a stone chip protector on the front of the bonnet here, very sensible dealer fit accessory. There we go. Under here, it's the legendary Barra, the twin cam 4-litre 6-cylinder engine, often seen with red cam covers, which I don't know if there's any relation to the turbocharger, but this does not have one. This is a naturally aspirated 190 kilowatts. I don't really know what that is in power terms. Somewhere around 230, 240 brake horsepower maybe. Got the manifold that differs the intake length depending on torque characteristics, and yeah, space for a turbo should you wish. You could specify a turbo, and later on they also managed to cram the V6 engine, which was a joint development between Ford and Peugeot, and used in Jaguars and all sorts, and that must make life quite interesting. That's a V6 2.7 litre turbo diesel. To be honest, in a land with cheap fuel, I think I would rather have the good old Barra power plant myself. It certainly feels like it's got plenty of power. Loads of space. It's a big old engine bay, and impressive stuff. Now, the rear wheel drive versions had the same automatic gearbox as the Falcon, a 4-speed BTR unit, I think it was. Might have been an evolution of that. Because this is all-wheel drive, it actually has a 6-speed ZF transmission, and obviously an output shaft coming forwards to the front wheels as well as to the back. By the time of the BA, Ford had stopped using the beam rear axle in the saloons, and this also has independent rear suspension, which is not quite so good for your off-roading. A beam axle is a bit better. But like I say, it's a soft roader. You can see the beefy suspension arms, slightly tired bump stop there, underslung spare wheel, and quite the exhaust system. But look at the silencer down there, that's enormous. That probably helps with the rather impressive refinement. We should probably turn our attention inwards. So let's jump aboard. Firstly, yes, this one does have seat covers. It's done 150,000 kilometers now. The owner wants to keep the seats nice. We will have a better look at the seats inside. If we jump in, then yeah, it's all quite standard Fordish, very Ford steering wheel, very much following the design philosophy of the time, but there are cubbies and storage all over the place. We've got a little flap down there. Don't think that is one. There's a couple of trays down here. We've got an enormous cubby down here that you can get all your CDs in there, including your InXS ones. A couple of cup holders, fairly obligatory. In the doors themselves, we've got lots of pockets going on, and an adjustable bottle holder here to keep your bottle nice and tight. Something here. Oh no, that just comes off in your hand. That's the fuse arrangement down there, so at least now we know. Cruise control, naturally, with buttons exactly where I want them to be, and stalks again lifted straight out of the Falcon. Indicators right, naturally. Indicators, a particularly unpleasant fake indicator noise, I will say. Ford were very good at that. Got air conditioning, as you'd hope. A slightly retro display down here. I'll just put the ignition on for a moment, and I presume if you put the stereo on, that comes up over there. So, oh yeah, might have some cheesy music later on. We've got a nice big glove box over here as well. What's he got in there? Melbourne directory. Ooh. And yeah, very nice upright driving position, as you might expect. So what makes SUVs work is the height between the seat base and the floor. It means the pedals can come closer. Oh, speaking of pedals, there is. It's not very much, I'll grant you, but there is. You can adjust the pedal height. That's almost not worth it. The seat adjustment, back and forth and tilt, and height adjustment is sorry, no, back and forth is manual. Height adjustment is on the switch down here. I don't know if that, it just does the seat base, and then there's a good old knob back there for adjusting your height. Electric mirrors, thusly. So not an overabundance of switches really. Oh, I see, that puts that one on. Oh, soft fade. And here is the 6-speed sequential gearbox. So you got sport mode should you feel the need. I haven't yet, but perhaps it's nice to have the option. But yeah, commanding view of the road, really quite impressive, I think. Commanding view of a man walking his dogs. In the rear, we first have some paperwork to deal with. Just move that for a moment. This is an original press kit for the Territory. It's got a floppy disk. Look, there's where your save icon comes from, kids. And a CD of some more photos. It's all typed out and printed, the various specs. This is a TX all-wheel drive. This is for the Series 1. We're actually in the facelift SY Series 2. Seen it would have been $42,000 when new. And yeah, so much stuff here, all about the powertrain, BA Falcon engine. So originally it had 182 kilowatts at 5,000 RPM, which I think was around 220 brake horsepower. I don't speak in their specifications. They have funny language, and no, it's all kilowatts, I'm afraid. But by the time this one came out, it was up to 190 anyway. So that's quite fascinating in itself. Good to see. Nice item to have with the car. The brochure is also quite interesting. Talking up the AccuTrack traction control system with optional hill descent control. Something they managed to get off Land Rover during Ford's ownership. I don't think this has it. I haven't seen any buttons for hill descent control. But that works by braking you. Oh, that panel's just fallen off again. As you go down a hill, it applies the brakes, and if a wheel slips, it lets go of that brake. And on wet grass, it's absolutely lethal. So yeah, this is more typical of the colours you can expect to see on a Territory. Boring ones. They don't do the best range. But like I say, we're in a TX, which is the base model effectively, but it's still got plenty of toys. We've still got electric windows back here. And as interesting as this stuff is, we've got stuff to explore. So I'll just park those on the floor down there for a moment, because the rear bench, very practical. It slides, so you can move it back and forth to have extra leg room in the back. With that in mind, I might bring it forward just a bit. You can pull this handle at which point you can then fold down. Oh, very difficult to do one-handed apparently. You can then fold down the seat back, and as you can see, the whole thing sort of folds relatively flat. And then we've got a bench seat in the back as well. We'll start by testing that all the way in the back, I think. Let's get in. Oh, that's firm. Yeah, I will say that seat is not all that comfortable. Pull the seat back up just to trap myself in. Oh, ow. Yeah, I would say it's children only back here, but again, there are cubbies variously, load latching hooks. I've at least got a window to see out, so it's not too claustrophobic. I'm fairly close to the back of the car though, and headroom is getting a bit tight. So you wouldn't want to transport several people very far necessarily, unless they're tiny. Do the headrests go up? Oh, they do. So you actually get the headrests in an appropriate place, even though my head is unfortunately resting on the roof. Nonetheless, fairly comfortable for a child, I suspect. And at least this seat does get nicely out of the way for me to clamber aboard, or clamber out even. And you'll see we've got a bit of a split going on. This seat also slides forward and can be tilted to fold down. Oh, and it stopped there apparently. So you've sort of got a flat load area, and then that allows this to fold down as well. This actually folds down into this space, this shoots backwards, and when this lever isn't broken, that then folds down as well. But we shall jump back out. So I must say this middle bench is also a bit on the firm side, and I can't comfortably get my legs under the seat in front, so I'm just going to give myself a bit more leg room by sliding the seat back. And yeah, there's kind of enough space going on. More cubbies down here, got fresh air vents, 12-volt power outlet, so you can keep your kiddies power supply on the go. We've got center armrest here with cup holders. That's actually too low. I need a bit more height on my armrest, so that's not ever so ideal. And I wonder if it's comfortable to sit in the middle. Oh yeah, that's not too bad actually. Again, I need to raise the head restraint, but yeah, the middle seat's okay, and it's fairly wide, so I think you could fit 3 of me across this bench with relative comfort. Fortunately, there is only 1 of me. Something else I must point out is that yes, that is a steel wheel. If you're going to do off-roading, alloy wheels stand a chance of getting smashed to pieces, so steel can be a preference, and I think they're really nice looking steel wheels. They must have been painted pretty well from the factory to still look so good. At the rear we've got extra clever stuff going on. You'll notice glass here and door here, so if I reach underneath I can just open the top half of the tailgate, which takes a little bit of bodywork with it. And you can see the boot space, there's been a bit of bleach damage, is not enormous. There is another 12-volt power outlet for your fridge back here, but nonetheless that's quite a useful access to it. Obviously if this seat did fold, and I don't think I'm going to be strong enough to pull these cables. Oh, maybe I can. Oh no, I can't pull those cables. I can pull that one but not that one. Oh, maybe I can. Right, hold on. Haha, I managed it, but before that goes down, I need to open the rest of the tailgate. That just feels a bit weird, to be honest, opening my 2-stage tailgate, because if I open the floor here, I can now pull that tag, I think, and that one, and I can pull the seat base backwards. It should do it. It is really difficult to do with not enough hands. Why won't that come through? There we go. Right, so we've got the seat base is now in under the secret section, so now that should fold down, and would do if I hadn't. These things are never quite as easy as they make it look in the advert, are they? So I need to move this seat forward a bit, both sides. And perhaps now we can fold that down. There we go. I'm sure that folds much better in the adverts. Why wouldn't that fold down properly? I don't know what's going wrong there, but that doesn't seem to want... Oh, yeah, it's all not fitting very well. As you can see, it's really user friendly, but nonetheless we've got some sort of space going on now, and I'm quite pleased to have achieved that. That's quite good. The seat belts just seem to fold down with the seat. I don't know if it's possible to unhook them. I can't see from here, and I don't think I care any longer either. What I will say is that we've got little hooks for holding your bags in place, so that's quite useful, so they're not sliding around everywhere. That kind of looks like it should open. Aha! And that provides access to a jack and a mysterious button. What's the mysterious button do? Oh, we may never know. Nonetheless, it has a mysterious button, and we'll get that back in there. Job's good. And we shall close tailgate 1. We shall close tailgate 2. And there we go. It's as easy as that. It really does look like a Kia back here, doesn't it? Like a Kia Sedona. And straight away, it sounds like the engine's miles away. But a very purposeful sounding engine. Better do a wiper test. Oh, I think these wiper blades are a bit old. Good overlap, no triangle of doom. This arm could get a bit closer to the edge of the screen. Maybe it does if you put them on fast. Sort of. So overall the wiping performance is poor because of these blades, but good as designed. We should probably have a peek at the rear wiper while we're here, shouldn't we, really? I assume that's going to be there. Oh, that's a very slow wiper and a bit shuddery. I suspect that blade's quite old. Oh, and there's a wash position in both places. How very Japanese. So you can go, there's a wash down here and a wash here, so you can wash separately without having to wipe, which is good, because when you discover that you've got no fluid, it can be bad times. Right, into drive, and away we go. We're on a gravel road at the moment, so does all-wheel drive provide traction? Yep, apparently it does. Now, one thing I've noticed immediately in this compared to the Falcon, I mean, obviously I'm sitting a bit higher up, so that's quite a change, but also the 6-speed gearbox makes a massive difference to how quick this car feels off the line. The 4-speed transmissions, first gear tends to be good for 70 kilometers an hour before it'll change under a full bore acceleration into second. So it makes them feel quite sluggish. Giving the suspension a good test on this gravel road. It is soft, long travel coil suspension. It is pretty decent. This is a pretty bad road, to be fair. And you can actually feel it float a bit in a way most modern cars just don't. Trying to avoid the worst of the potholes. Let's try driving on an actual road instead, shall we? Oh, there goes a Territory in a boring colour. So I'll do 80 in second before I realise that's a little too quickly for this road. So certainly doesn't hang about, and this is a lot of car to be moving. I wouldn't say it was laser quick, but few things are as quick as a laser. Lasers really are pretty quick, to be fair. That was a terrible example. But very peaceful. There's a bit of road noise because the Antipodes seem to have particularly noisy roads. But it's a very smooth, very easy car to drive. I quite like it. You do feel the height in the driving position, and sometimes that's a good thing. Nice commanding view of the world, and sometimes that isn't really what you want. We'll take this road because I believe it to be twisty. So it makes pleasant noises occasionally, but is generally fairly peaceful. Here comes another Territory in silver. So the Territory sold really well. I think they sold about 184,000 if I've memorised that correctly. I may not have. So they sold pretty well. Introduced in 2004 and ran till 2016 when Ford Australia was kind of disbanded, much as Holden has been, sadly. Here comes a bend. Slow down a little, I think. Oh, that's leaning on it quite hard, but it feels actually quite composed and not too wobbly. So I would consider that a good thing. And then here comes a white Ford Territory, which you may not be able to see from your angle. I apologise. That's a slightly later version where the 2.7 V6 turbo diesel became an option. But it's nice quick steering. It just feels very competent. I mean, yes, you do feel like you're high up. So you are pivoting over those wheels a bit more than you would in a normal car. But like I say, it's very comfortable and very smooth. I can see why this car was a success. It does seem an ideal car for Australia. You want that ease of driving because in Australia you often have to cover vast different distances. Not differences, that's something entirely different. So while there is the Tiptronic function where you can knock it into a sort of manual mode, I frankly don't really see the point. The gearbox seems to be pretty good at choosing which gear. I'm just going to slow down to do a fake overtake scenario. So we'll just checking there's no one behind me, which will slow down to 50 behind this right absolute duffer. Right, here we go, our chance to get past. Yeah, for a big old lumper car, that's a pretty impressive performance. And of course the other benefit of a 6-speed transmission is you can have a really tall top ratio. So that feels good. And as for brakes, yeah, I'd say the brakes are reassuring. So on the face of it, an enormous Australian SUV might not seem very HubNut. It's been interesting to try this, and I think it's really rather good. It's feeling its age a bit. The door card is a bit rattly because it must have been a clip broken or something inside it. But yeah, it's a very nice thing to drive. I think it drives better than the Falcon, dare I say it, overall. It feels more comfortable. Perhaps the suspension has a bit more travel to it. So there we go. That was the Ford Territory, a pretty decent vehicle. I really enjoyed driving around in that. I love this colour, this wired sort of burnt orange. It's a fabulous colour. More cars need to be colours. I also like the two-tone effect with the grey bumpers. I just think it looks marvellous. But I shall say, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget you can head to the HubNut store and buy HubNut goodies if you wish. T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, etc. And I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell.